East Berlin, November 1984. Captain Wissler teaches a class about interrogation using a recording from one of his interrogations. A prisoner, 227, was brought in. His friend escaped to the west, and the Stasi wanted to know who was involved. Prisoner 227 insisted that he'd done nothing, and Wissler said they don't arrest people without cause. Wissler tells his class to interrogate someone non-stop until they reveal the truth. Prisoner 227 was kept awake. Wissler explains that innocent people will get angrier, while guilty people will become quieter. Prisoner 227's story was the same one he shared when he was first brought in. Wissler teaches that rehearsed lies remain the same, while the truth is retold. Wissler threatened prisoner 227's wife and children and asked to help his friend escape. Prisoner 227 broke down and gave the name. Wissler believes in doing everything possible to find people who are enemies of socialism and their great nation. Wissler's friend, Grubitz, is offered a professorship. He remembers when they were students together and invites Wissler to the theater. Wissler and Grubitz attend a play by a beloved writer, Draiman. The play is fantastic, and everyone adores the lead actress, Christa. Wissler doesn't trust artists and is suspicious of Draiman. Grubitz tells him not everyone is an enemy and goes downstairs to speak with Minister Hempf, a high-ranking Stasi member. Hempf compliments Grubitz and asks what he thinks of Draiman. Grubitz wants to impress Hempf, so he repeats what Wissler said about Draiman not being what he seems. Hempf is pleased and believes they see more than other people. Hempf wants Draiman's home to be wired. There's a party at Draiman's place. Christa and Draiman are in love and dance together. Draiman wonders what Hempf is doing there and teases Christa, saying that maybe Hempf has a crush on her. Hempf talks to Draiman and puts his arm around Christa, making her uncomfortable. She leaves, saying she needs to find another dance partner. Hempf thinks Draiman's director, Paul, is better than his original director and mentor, Jerska. Draiman asks him to remove Jerska's blacklisting. Hempf says they don't blacklist people and warns Draiman to be careful. Draiman asks that Jerska be allowed back. Grubitz and Wissler use the party to note where to place devices. Wissler goes home. He's lonely, as working for the Stasi is the only thing that matters to him. Wissler has Draiman's apartment wired with microphones and cameras. A surveillance station is set up in the building's attic. Draiman visits Jerska, who says he's nothing without directing. Draiman tells him about speaking with Hempf and that Jerska's blacklisting looks promising. Christa is preparing for Draiman's birthday party. He goes downstairs to open the building's entrance for guests. Christa secretly takes a pill. Jerska doesn't want to talk to anyone at the party. Draiman sits with him. Jerska gives him the sheet music of Sonata for a Good Man. Paul accuses another director at the party of being part of the Stasi. Draiman tells him to stop, and Paul leaves. He's angry Draiman is allowing people in his life who will ruin him as they did for Jerska. Wissler takes notes. The party is over, and Wissler changes shifts with Leve, a fellow Stasi member. Grubitz has lunch with Wissler and reveals that the license plate he took from the car that dropped off Christa belongs to Hempf. Grubitz removes it from Wissler's report and insists on no written notes, only voice recordings. He believes helping Hempf remove Draiman so he can have Christa for himself will be good for their careers. Wissler took an oath to protect the party. Grubitz says helping the party members helps the party. Krista walks home from dinner with friends. Hempf pulls up and insists she get in the car as she missed their Thursday meeting. She does. Hempf says she doesn't know what's good for her, and he's looking out for her. He forces himself on her. She's reluctant and lifeless, but can't say no because he'll ruin her career or imprison her. Whistler sees Hempf drop Krista off. Whistler says it's time for bitter truths and makes Draymond's bell ring so he can see Krista being dropped off. Draymond goes downstairs to open the building door and sees Krista get out of Hempf's car before readjusting her clothing. Krista walks slowly upstairs. Whistler thinks his plan worked. Draymond sits in his apartment, disturbed. Krista sits in the shower and cries. She takes some pills when she gets out. Draymond sees Krista curled up on the bed. He tries to talk to her, but she asks him to hold her. He does. Whistler returns to his apartment and has a prostitute visit him for human connection. Krista tells Draymond that Paul couldn't get permits to teach in the West. Draymond isn't surprised. Whistler notes that Draymond approves of Paul's travel ban. Draymond gets a call, and Whistler listens. Jerska killed himself the night before. Draymond is shocked and plays the music Jerska gave him on his birthday. Whistler listens and enjoys the music. Hempf pressures Grubitz to find something on Draymond. Grubitz hopes that revoking Paul's permit will get something out of Draymond. Draymond says he used to be afraid of being unable to write and being alone. Since Jerska died, he doesn't care about writing or other people. He's only scared of losing Krista. Krista says there's no need to worry because she's only meeting a school friend. Draymond knows where she's going and asks her to stay. Draymond also knows about Krista's secret medication. He says she doesn't need Hempf to be a great artist because she is already great. Krista also points out that Draymond obeys the system because he knows they can destroy him. She doesn't want either of them to end up like Jerska and wishes things were different. Draymond begs her not to go. Leva arrives for a shift change. Whistler goes to a nearby bar and drinks as Krista walks in. Whistler addresses her by name and pretends he knows her as an actress. He reassures Krista that people love her for who she is. Krista says Whistler knows a lot about her and asks if she would hurt someone who loves her by selling herself for art. Whistler says that would be a bad deal because she already has art. Krista calls him a good man and leaves. Whistler returns for his next shift and reads Leva's notes. Krista came back 20 minutes after leaving and they made love. She said she'd never leave again. Whistler is pleased. Paul comforts Draymond at Jerska's funeral. Draymond writes about how everything is counted in their socialist country except for suicides. He visits Paul, who speaks loudly about how good their leaders are and turns on music. Paul softly tells Draymond that the Stasi are listening to him. Draymond suggests they meet at his apartment. Paul has them meet in a park. Draymond wants to publish what he wrote in the West with Paul's help. Paul will only help him if Krista doesn't know, for her protection. Draymond wants them to meet at his apartment and insists he has no surveillance. They test if Draymond's apartment is being watched by pretending that Paul's uncle will smuggle his nephew across the border in his car. Whistler calls border control, but says nothing. He comments to himself that he'll allow Draymond this one chance. Draymond meets with Paul and Gregor, an editor for a big magazine in the West. They'll pretend to write a play for their country's 40th birthday. Draymond calls the Stasi idiots. Whistler listens, but notes that nothing happened. Gregor gives Draymond a smuggled typewriter so they can't link the article to him. Gregor apologizes for only being able to find red ink. They hide it under a floorboard and drink to their plan. Vissler types a report and meets with Grubitz. Grubitz speaks about how there are 5 types of artists. Draymond is type 4, and the only way to punish a type 4 is to imprison them and deny them human contact and interaction for 10 months. Most type 4s they've processed like that never create art again. Grubitz asks why he's there. Vissler looks at his report and says it's time to slim down surveillance on Draymond. He suggests he be the only one watching Draymond. Grubitz says something doesn't feel right, but agrees. Vissler listens to Draymond and his friends write the article, but notes that they're discussing a new play. Draymond is hiding the typewriter when Krista comes home. She doesn't ask what he's doing. They lay together in bed. Draymond tries to tell her, but Krista insists he doesn't. Hempf sits alone in a hotel room. Draymond gives Gregor the secret document. Krista and Draymond watch the news and see them talk about Draymond's article. Grubitz tries to figure out where the typewriter comes from, but can't connect it to anyone. Grubitz asks Vissler about the article and if Draymond or one of his friends is behind it. Vissler denies Draymond's involvement. Hempf gives Grubitz details of where Krista gets her illegal medication. He says Grubitz can arrest her or not, as long as she's never allowed to act again. Krista's arrested and questioned by Grubitz. He says the only thing that can help her is revealing who wrote the article. Draymond is waiting for Krista to come home. Men arrive at Draymond's house. Vissler hears and sees everything. Draymond's apartment is searched. All they find are illegal Western books and newspapers. Grubitz is annoyed. Paul thinks Krista spoke to the Stasi. Draymond says it's not her because she knows the hiding place and they didn't find the typewriter. Grubitz believes Draymond wrote the article. He has Vissler interrogate Krista. Krista sees him and pretends not to recognize him. Vissler says that her audience will be told she won't be able to perform tonight, and it will be her last performance if she doesn't give them evidence against Draymond. Krista says she made it all up. Vissler says Draymond is going to prison anyway, so Krista should at least save herself. Krista gives away the hiding spot for the typewriter. Grubitz has her sign as an informant and gives her illegal medication as a reward. Krista comes home and lies about where she's been. Grubitz and his men arrive at Draymond's apartment. Vissler walks in with them. Draymond tries to talk to Krista in the shower. She's dismissive. Grubitz knocks on Draymond's door and says they're just checking that the team from the night before did a proper job. He pretends to discover the hiding place for the typewriter. Draymond looks at Krista and knows she told them. She runs, and Grubitz orders his men to let her go. Grubitz opens the floorboard and finds nothing. He calls Krista an actress. Krista stumbles into the street and lets a truck hit her. Vissler goes to her. She says she can't put right what was done wrong. Vissler says there's nothing to make right and steps away. Draymond holds Krista in his arms, begging her to forgive him. She dies. Grubitz says the mission is over and tells Vissler his career is over, even if he was smart enough to hide his tracks. Vissler is demoted. 4 years and 7 months later, Vissler steams open letters for the government checking civilian mail. There's an announcement that the Berlin Wall has fallen. 2 years later, Draymond watches an actress on stage. He leaves in the middle of the performance and goes to the foyer. Hempf is there. Drayman asks why he was never under surveillance. Hempf says he was under complete surveillance. Drayman finds his apartment is completely wired. He wants to read the reports. A stack of files is brought to him. Drayman is shocked. He reads them and sees the false notes Vissler made. He finds Krista's signed statement as an informant and realizes she couldn't have been the one to remove the typewriter. He notes the writer is HGWXX7 and sees they were demoted. There's red ink on the final report, and Drayman figures out that HGWXX7 removed the typewriter. He's given information on Vissler and finds him working as a mailman. Drayman wants to talk to Vissler, but hesitates and leaves him alone. 2 years later, Vissler is delivering mail and sees a new book by Drayman called Sonata for a Good Man. It's dedicated to HGWXX7. Vissler smiles and buys the book.